All right, everybody. Welcome back to Biscuits and SEC Live. It is December 10th. This is our 63rd live show, and obviously it is packed to the gills. We've got conference title games to talk. The college football playoff field is set. There's been a ton of drama on that front, mostly centered around Notre Dame, Miami. We'll get into all this, but thanks for joining us. Excited to be here yet again. Hard to believe that the regular season and championship weekend is fully in the rear view. So appreciate everybody tuning in all year. Bossman, how you doing tonight? Or should I say Augustus McCrae? How you doing tonight?
I prefer Boss Hogman, just for those out there. But I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk tonight. We got so much going on. I mean, we had breaking news this afternoon. Sharon Moore gets fired from Michigan. That's a whole mess. So now that job is open. One of the biggest jobs in college football now open. Late in the hiring cycle, we got the college football playoff field that we got to talk about. The committee making crazy decisions. Notre Dame whining like children. And just a lot to get into. So thank you guys all for joining us on the #1 podcast for folks who love the SEC, college football, and biscuits. That's the Crossroads. So looking forward to talking about tons of football stuff tonight.
Exactly. So obviously, yeah, we're brought to you by the Steer Agency. You see below. Appreciate those guys for supporting the show. If you are new around here and you don't subscribe to the newsletter, you could do so at the link below, biscuitsandsec.com/newsletter. Ought to be in the description on the YouTube channel as well, but pretty self-explanatory there. It's totally free, comes out twice a week during the season. After the national championship game in the offseason, we'll transition to once a week, but just a SEC college football, college sports-centric newsletter that we send out for free to your inbox. So definitely would appreciate a sign up at the link below there. Obviously, follow us on socials, YouTube, etc. Let's get into it. So the college football playoff field is set. Again, not without drama, and we'll kind of parlay this into the Notre Dame side of things, but they're not in the field. So we'll start with the people that actually made it. You can see the bracket here. So obviously I'm not going to read down this. I think everybody listening probably knows what the field is, but the matchups, at least, we've got Miami going to A&M, Tulane going to Ole Miss, Alabama going to Oklahoma for a rematch, and then James Madison going to Oregon. So for those of y'all that don't know, our younger brother, the third Keeler, went to James Madison. So pretty crazy that Aggies and James Madison are in the same 12-team playoff field. Godspeed to the Dukes going out to Eugene. Don't have high hopes for them, but I'm happy they're in the field. Good for the Dukes. But any thoughts on again, the teams that actually made it, matchups? What are you thinking now that the playoff field is finally set after a month of debating?
Well, aside from Notre Dame getting hosed, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I'm glad that there's not, at least as an Aggie, I'm glad there's not a rematch there. We've played them twice in the last 2 years. I was looking forward to hopefully playing somebody else. Miami, we have played recently as well, so it's not like that's a huge changeover. We've played them a couple times in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I had a home and home when Jimbo was I can't remember, right, 22, 23 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I'm looking forward to playing them again. They're a solid team, so I'm really interested in that matchup. I'm happy to see John Summerall and Tulane make it. I think that guy's a hell of a coach, man. I think Florida's getting a good one there. Excited to see what they can do in their rematch against Ole Miss. Ole Miss waxed them in the first one, 45-10. So do they have a chance in this one going to Oxford? We'll see. Maybe second time they have a better chance. They got a better game plan, et cetera. We'll see about that. I do think that there's a conversation after the season. Paul Feinbaum's been hammering this about the group of five. Like, we'll see how these teams do in terms of JMU and Tulane this year, but so far the product has not been that great. And frankly, to me, it should be the 12 best teams. I like the feel-good stories and everything. I personally am for a G6 playoff versus, letting them into this playoff. we had the Cinderella stories from years past, right, with Boise State over Oklahoma. Just a couple years ago, actually, we had Tulane over USC, but that was not in the playoff. That was in a bowl game. So, look, it can happen. It's just I personally like better a field of the 12 best teams who have a chance to win it all. Does JMU have a chance to win it all? The answer is no. Does Tulane have a chance to win it all? No. So Notre Dame would have a chance to win it all. Vanderbilt, Texas, they could get hot. Maybe a BYU. I don't think BYU could win it either. But, there was a couple teams in there, 4 teams really, that got left out that I think, should have had a chance to play for a national title. The other ones I'm really interested in here. I am interested in this Oklahoma-Alabama rematch. 2-point victory for Oklahoma in the first round in Tuscaloosa. Now we're going to get that one in Norman. That's going to be a lot of fun. My question for you is toughest road to the title game. Who do you think has the toughest road? Is it A&M in the first round, having to go through Ohio State, then potentially Georgia? Is it like who got the easiest in terms of the 4 byes? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think probably the toughest road is at least to get to the semis is A&M because that Miami first round game. Obviously Oklahoma, Alabama, that's a really tough game as well. But those teams at least played a month ago, so they know a little bit more of what to expect. Certainly there's a full body, there's a 12-game sample size for the coaches on A&M and Miami's staffs to prepare. But I do think there's a little bit more of a level of familiarity, let's say, between OU and Alabama, so they know what to expect. And then, I don't want to take anything away from Indiana. And so the answer maybe is, maybe this is just my own bias. Maybe it is the Oklahoma or Alabama has the toughest road to the semis, having to play one another and then Indiana. But Ohio State's the national champions, defending national championships. They lost by 3 in the Big Ten title game. And so I still think, they're the team to beat right now. Obviously, Indiana showed that they can be beat. So either one of those, it's probably really a coin flip, kind of a preference, or who you think is maybe better there. But at least, for that Oklahoma Alabama game, I think there's a little bit of, even our friend, Rick just mentioned as you flashed up on the screen, but Bama's really beat up. Hopefully they're healthy by the time that game rolls around, but they're very beat up. And, from the Miami side, I think they've got something to prove, right? They very much were shoehorned in at the last minute. We'll get into that. I think it was the right decision, but I think Mario and that staff, will not that had Notre Dame gotten in. It's the college football playoff. Everyone's going to be ready to play, but that's my read on it. Is I think A&M probably has the toughest road to the semis, but honestly, as an Aggie grad, I don't care, right? We're in the 12-team playoff. Like, spot the ball, anybody, anywhere. Would it be nice to be playing James Madison? Yeah, sure, maybe, but I don't care. You're splitting hairs between A&M, Ole Miss, Oregon. I think A&M has an argument to be ahead of, either one of them, but at the same time, Ole Miss has their argument. You're splitting hairs, so I don't care that A&M drew Miami. It's going to be a great atmosphere, a great game. And, if A&M is fortunate enough to win, or obviously if Miami does, then again, boom, second round, Ohio State, defending champs, best program probably of all time. Alabama has something to say about that. But so I love it. I don't care about the draw. So I'm excited for it. And I think I did want to say something real quick on the G5 piece you brought up. So I've heard a couple of theories. As you brought up, I'm in favor of the G5 playoff as well. Think that would probably just be a better format. Those games would be more competitive amongst one another as well. I think one thing that the people who look at the G5 and cite these upsets over the years, which do happen, the G5 is watered down from what it once was. Look around. Cincy, Houston, TCU, UCF, so many of these schools have bumped up. And so it's just not quite what it used to be. So, and then the other solution I suppose I've heard is requiring a G5, an additional G5 to be ranked inside the top 20, which would have bumped JMU out this year, so they would have given the nod to Tulane as the 5th highest ranked, whatever, conference champ. And then, somebody else would have got the nod, which that's another one I like in theory, but I think it's somewhat of a slippery slope because it's just a way to keep them out, because the reality is they would never be ranked at the top 20. So, in theory, I think it's a good strategy, but I could see kind of what we just had this year, right? Where it was like, whether it's Vanderbilt or BYU or Notre Dame or Miami, these schools that the more you put these rules in or the more you expand, it's like, dude, there's always going to be controversy and arguments. And so if you just put another caveat in there, well, 2 years from now, there might be legitimately 2 really good G5 schools. Maybe they both come out of the same conference, the American, let's say. One wins, gets the nod, and the other one, just doesn't have a prayer to be ranked in the top 20. So, it's one of those things. College football always has been, and at least for now is still very imperfect. And so it is what it is. And, you deal with the consequences that are not always fair.
That's kind of why we love it too. I mean, there's no sport like this. I mean, sure, there's controversy in other sports, but to me, it's just ratcheted up to another level because of the passion of the fan bases. And we're seeing that to some degree with Notre Dame right now. I mean, Notre Dame people are losing their mind. Years ago, not long ago, it was Florida State fans losing their minds after they got left out, being a conference champ in the 4-team playoff and having an undefeated record. Years ago in the BCS system, it was Auburn who should have gotten a shot at a national title. And I think it was 2003 with Jason Campbell, Tommy Tuberville, didn't get a shot. They got left out because the computer said no. So it's always been an imperfect system. I'm just happy. I mean, we'll look at the field one more time. I'm happy when it all is set and we got a lot of, stuff swirling around and all sorts of talk and everything. Talking season's over. The field is set. Let's see what you got. Roll the ball out. Let's play.
Yeah. So there is one, before we get into the Notre Dame controversy, there's one point I did want to bring up that I actually thought was interesting. I'll give credit. It was the Solid Verbal guys that mentioned this because I guess I just hadn't really thought about it in this way. They brought up specifically Alabama, who, for the record, I am fully on board with them making think, even though they got blown out and it was ugly, I don't think, you can penalize a team who, by the way, was the home team, the number one, team in the SEC throughout the regular season. I don't think, even though the game was ugly, that they should have been, eliminated from the playoff because of that game. However, they brought up an interesting point, and I think it will parlay well into this Notre Dame issue, and that is just the idiocy of the committee. Because while I agree with what happened with Alabama, even in getting blown out, is the only team I do believe that didn't drop losing their conference championship game. So last season we had Penn State, was a top 4 seed, fell to 6 or whatever. You had SMU lose to Clemson, stayed in the field, but dropped. Mm-hmm. Obviously this year, even Ohio State goes from number 1 to number 2. BYU, of course, this year in the field or whatever at number 11 and drops. So I just found that interesting because it just goes to show how, while again, I agree with the result, the committee is just all over the place in terms of like they have no consistency. What matters in what situation varies based on the team that they're evaluating. And that's what bugs me the most about this, because fair, unfair, whatever, as we just said, you just have to kind of deal with the result. But I do think whether it's a different committee, made up of not, how about athletic directors, or going back to more BCS style. I don't know what the solution is, but I think at the very least, we should be able to agree on a list of criteria. And if conference title games don't matter, that's fine. Put that in the criteria. And then the other teams that lose shouldn't drop either, right? Or Alabama should have dropped, in this scenario to 10 or 11 or 12, right? I mean, you can still put them in there. I guess they couldn't because of the G5s, but they could have dropped to 10 at least, right? And they didn't, which, again, I have no problem with the result, but the evidence swirling around that with them being the only one that didn't drop is at the very least inconsistent and paints the committee in a very bad light, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on this quickly. First of all, I'll say this. I don't want conference championship games to go away. I'm a college football traditionalist. I love the SEC title game. I love the Big Ten title game. The Big Ten title game this year was awesome.
Ruled.
Awesome. The ACC title game, even with all their crazy, stupid, tiebreaker scenarios, the Duke UVA game, I mean, awesome game. How about like championship weekend is part of the fabric of college football. So I want to keep conference championship games, and I also want to keep them meaning something. I don't want the potential of teams to like opt out. And so I know the committee's kind of in a rock and a hard place here to try to make sure that conference championship games still matter, right? Because we're starting to go towards a world where it's just college football playoff or bust. And that's where we can get on to Notre Dame here in a second. But I just wanted to say that, like, we have to keep conference championship games.
And by the way, I put this in the newsletter this week. They matter to me, as you said, and they also matter to a lot of people that play. I think both of the teams in the Big Ten, you mentioned, the ACC, it matters to those teams. It matters to those coaches. Kirby Smart said it after the game. This means the world to me. Yeah. He cares. So we have to find a way to make them, matter. And like I said, whether that's only the stakes, I guess, on the line or some sort of a buy or something, then I guess that is what there's got to be something on the line, because I don't want to see them go away. I think they should matter, and I think they do matter, and it would be a shame if that was a casualty of all this playoff expansion.
Yeah, I think one thing that could happen, this is just a shot in the dark here, but for like the top 4 teams, right, in Big Ten, in the SEC, ACC, at least the Power 4 conferences, I would love to see the top 4 teams play a game as well. So you get 1 versus 2 and then 3 versus 4. Basically, that's like your play-in game, right? I mean, A&M plays Ole Miss or something, right? That's your play-in game to get into the playoff. And also that takes away we got beat up in the conference championship game, right? We had to play this extra game that we had to play against a really formidable opponent. Okay, well, then like the 3 and 4 teams play. Okay, that team got second in the SEC that year, right? They didn't get to the SEC championship game, but they got second. They got in the college football playoff. And then that takes out, they had to play an extra game whole thing. So and plus, by the way, for TV, that would be fantastic. I would watch every single one of those games. Like, all those games are going to be awesome games. So I think we have to figure out a way, that we keep the conference championship games, we keep the integrity of those games. And the final thing I want to say on it is, the criteria is supposed to be, and it has been, for the committee for a couple of years at least, is if you make it to your conference championship game, it shouldn't hurt your status going into the playoff. If you're going to be a playoff team, you will make it in if you made your conference championship game. Well, we have to be consistent. And this year, the committee was not consistent. Like you said, with Alabama, right? Like they get dropped. I think Alabama should have probably dropped to 10, but the committee with the rankings was between a rock and a hard place because Miami can't jump Alabama. How is Miami going to jump Alabama? How can you justify that? How could you justify Notre Dame jumping Alabama? I really don't think you could. And so they were already ranked too high. So they don't drop a spot. And they should have dropped a spot, in my opinion. It probably should have been A&M, Alabama, 7-10. But the other part of this is BYU. BYU has a legitimate argument. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are saying that making the conference championship game matters, and we are in the field as it currently stands heading into championship weekend. Okay, we got blown out by Texas Tech, whatever. Second time this year. Now we have 2 losses. Both those losses have come to a top 5 team. And you're trying to tell me that the conference championship games should matter, but they should matter only to the extent that we are already in the playoff. Like, what the hell? Like, why are we not in the playoff? Like, we lost 2 games to a top 5 team. We're number 11 in the country, and we dropped. But you're telling me that Ohio State and Indiana, no matter what, they're in the field, and Alabama and Georgia, no matter what, they're in the field. Give me a break. Like, I understand why the Cougs making a lot of good points. Like, this is ridiculous. So,
I mean, it is what it is, and I think we can parlay that into the Notre Dame discussion now. And I'll just set this up. I know you have a lot you want to say. I'll just set this up, and I think you're going to touch on this as well. But I will say, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. The process to how we arrived at this result was complete garbage.
Yep.
And Notre Dame absolutely had the rug pulled out from under them because neither of them in Miami played. And the logic that you can't factor in head-to-head until the teams are ranked side by side is just complete bananas and buffoonery. And it goes back again to just the inadequacy of the committee, because I agree with the result. We had been saying for weeks on the show that Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. I don't understand why Notre Dame keeps getting ranked ahead of them. So when it came out on Sunday, I thought they got it right. The problem is they'd been getting it wrong for 5 weeks or whatever until then. And so Notre Dame has obviously a legitimate gripe to say, we thought we were in. We had been ranked ahead of them every single week. That game was in week 1. It's not new material here. This has been on the docket every single ranking, and you put us ahead of them until now when neither one of us played. So I get the frustration. The process was horrendous. The fallout, though, I think is where Notre Dame has completely lost me, and I believe you as well. So I'll let you take it from here.
And I think most of the college football public, frankly, this is from national media types. I'm seeing all sorts of stuff. I mean, today it came out that the Notre Dame bookstore wouldn't allow Ivan Maziel to come and do a talk, which was already scheduled based on a book that he wrote about one of their great coaches in Frank Leahy. Like, they just said, no, this isn't happening anymore. It's all-time petty. I mean, they are the lengths that they are going, and Ivan Maziel is on the committee this year. Yeah. That is why they are saying he can no longer come, even though he wrote this glowing book about one of their great coaches. As if Ivan Maziel is like colluding with ESPN and all these other people that they're putting on their tinfoil hat. It was Ivan Maziel,
like. Well, the funny thing on that, too, I saw he was tweeting. He actually recused himself, he said, from any Notre Dame discussion because of the book. He said because he had written this book and Marcus Freeman had written a foreword to the book. He said, I recused myself from any Notre Dame discussion inside the committee meetings because I thought it was a conflict of interest. And so he didn't even have anything to do with it. He was in the room, of course, but he.
Yeah, it is just one more example of how Notre Dame and their fan base have beclowned themselves. They have acted like spoiled children since they didn't get in. And I had sympathy for them. Let me start out like this. They got hosed. Notre Dame got hosed. As you led with, they shouldn't have been ranked ahead of Miami for weeks. Miami got the head-to-head. Head-to-head has to matter. Miami should have been ranked ahead of them. Miami has some pretty bad losses, like Louisville. I mean, come on, right? Like they have some losses in there that you have an argument that you should be in, even though that head-to-head happened, right? But you still got hosed based on the way that this all played out. Miami's ranked 18th or something in the first college football playoff rankings. They keep moving up, and then all of a sudden you get them to the point that all the lobbying, right, was working for Miami. All these teams trying to lobby the committee. Well, Miami did a good job. And got it to the point where they were, neck and neck, side by side, and that's when the committee could make the right, correct decision because they beat you in week 1. So that's the start. They got hosed. The second thing is I respect Marcus Freeman. I really like Marcus Freeman as a coach. I have the utmost respect for him as a coach and really love what he's done with Notre Dame. It's been pretty impressive what he has done with Notre Dame since Brian Kelly left. I don't think there's anybody who would dispute that. So that's where I'll start. Now, Notre Dame has acted like spoiled children, spoiled milk, crying over spoiled milk ever since this came out. There have been many teams in the past, which we talked about earlier, who have had this same thing happen to them. In fact, Texas A&M, our alma mater, had this happen, and Notre Dame got in over us when the 14 playoff happened in 2020. A&M went out and won a bowl game. They went out in the Orange Bowl and beat the tar out of the Tar Heels, North Carolina, by 20. They came back, or they pulled away in the fourth quarter. Georgia, same thing a couple years ago. Georgia, all the way through until the SEC title game, they're in. They're one of the best teams in the country. They've gone back-to-back. They get left out because they lose by 3 in the SEC title game. Did they, I don't remember. Did they say we're not going to go to a bowl game? Did they go home and take their ball home and just go back to the locker room and say, oh, we don't want to play? No, they didn't do that. This is unprecedented, and it's ridiculous that they're going to say, well, we didn't get into the college football playoff, and so now we're just not even going to play in a bowl game. I lost a lot of respect for Notre Dame for the way that they handled this. Somebody said as well, I got Notre Dame fans all spun up on Twitter as this was coming down because I replied to the On3 tweet about them, not taking the bowl invitation and deciding to sit out bowl season. I said, what is going on here? Like, do you not have a culture in your locker room? Anybody at any time, anywhere? It's just if we don't get our way, we're just going to go home. What kind of locker room culture is that? What kind of school culture is that? What are we talking about? It's ridiculous. And by the way, I had somebody in that comment section say, "You're a weirdo." It was the players. It was the players, who made this decision. Again, Graham, to say anywhere, anytime, spot the ball. We want to stick it to the committee, and we're going to go out and we're going to win by 60, like Georgia did a couple of years ago against Florida State. Also, Florida State got left out as well. Florida State played. Yeah. They got whooped, and I know they had a lot of players opt out. You're going to have players opt out if you're Notre Dame too. I get it. No, I'm not a weirdo for suggesting that the players that they made this decision, bad locker room culture. And by the way, as a leader, if I'm Marcus Freeman, part of being a leader is you're leading 18 to 21, 22-year-old men, sometimes 26, 27 at this point with all the kids who are getting, 7th year of eligibility and whatever. But you're the elder statesman in the room. You're the head coach of this football team. You are supposed to be the one who goes in and stops these kids from making a dumb decision. If your seniors and your team is saying, "Coach, we just don't even want to play," you say, whoa, hold on. Get everybody in the locker room in 5 minutes, and I'm going to be there. And then you walk in and you say, "Guys, this didn't go our way. The truth of the matter is we didn't do it. We didn't get it. We should have beaten Texas A&M. We should have beaten Miami. And I know that we had this great run and we did everything we possibly could. But the truth is sometimes things in life don't go your way. And this time it didn't go our way. So let's go out and let's play one more time for our seniors. Let's play one more time as brothers. Let's go out there and beat the tar out of whoever it is that they put next to us in a bowl game. I don't care if it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl, whatever bowl it is. Let's go out there.
Nothing against Pop-Tarts.
Nothing against Pop-Tarts. And by the way, just so you know, I put this out there. The Pop-Tart is coming for you, just so you. Better watch out. I don't know that those frosted strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon. Watching the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the People's National Championship, by the way. He's coming for you. He doesn't appreciate being pushed to the side by high and mighty Notre Dame. Okay, So just so you know, Notre Dame, watch out for that. Now, okay, some of the other stuff here too. They were really mad about Alabama specifically, right? Alabama, they shouldn't have gotten in over this. They got blown out by Georgia and whatever. Okay, well, first of all, they were 10-2 going into that game, number 1 seed in the SEC, and join a conference. How about that? If you were in a conference, you would have gone to a championship game and you would have had to play. And you could have, okay, we beat the tar out of whoever. We beat the tar out of UVA if you're in the ACC. We beat Ohio State, or we played Ohio State to a draw, right? Ohio State beats us by 3 if you're in the Big Ten, whatever it is. You don't get to sit at home and then yell at Alabama and these other teams that are playing in a conference championship game and say, well, they got blown out while you're sitting on your ass at home. Get out of here with that. It's ridiculous. And here's the other thing. None of your wins, 0 of your wins are as good as Alabama. In the regular season, Alabama's wins much better than yours. And Graham Coffey put a great tweet out. Notre Dame faced 4 teams in the Sagarin Top 30 and went 2-2. Alabama faced 9 teams in the Sagarin Top 30 and went 7-2. Who controls Notre Dame's schedule? Notre Dame controls their schedule because they refuse to play in a conference because they want to be special. They want to be different than everybody else. And they schedule a bunch of cupcakes. Look at this. Here's your 2025 Notre Dame football schedule. Miami, you get them early on. Okay, you lose that game. No worries. Got a long season to go. Texas A&M. All right, tough game. 41-40, get beat at home. Holding call or not, you get beat. Those are your 2 best games on your schedule. Go down the rest of the schedule. Purdue, come on. Arkansas, bottom of the barrel in the SEC. Boise State, NC State, mid to lower tier of the ACC. USC, play them every year. Okay, good game. Boston College, lower tier of the ACC, almost every single year. Service Academy, okay, they were ranked. Give me a break. Pitt, Syracuse, terrible. Stanford, terrible. You control your schedule. And you're trying to tell me that, oh, we went on one of the best 10-game runs in college football history. Get out of here. By the way, 2026 schedule, what's that look like? Oh, they're about to go and tear everybody up in 2026. Pretty bad right now. Rice, no thanks. Michigan State, terrible. Purdue, terrible. North Carolina, terrible. Navy, Miami, good. Okay, good for you. You schedule Miami. Boston College, SMU, so. You should beat them. You're Notre Dame every single year. Syracuse, no good. Stanford, no good. I mean, to sit there at home and yell at all the people who are playing in a conference championship game when you don't play in a conference, you're the only ones that control your schedule. Get out of here with that. I found that to be absolutely ridiculous. And then there's another one that really got me here. There was a Notre Dame beat writer who tweeted out, he put a whole column out. It was about how all the people who decry participation trophy culture are now the people who are saying that Notre Dame should go and play for a participation trophy. All-time spin zone there. We've had the bowl system for how many years? 50 years now. Notre Dame has been playing in bowl games since 1969 all the way through. And these Notre Dame fans were saying, well, historically, Notre Dame has denied bowl games. Not since 1969. Are you guys still playing in the the 4 horsemen era? No, you're not.
Before integration?
Before integration? That's when you were denying bowl games? You've been playing in bowl games since 1969 all the way through. So don't give me this whole history lesson about Notre Dame denying bowl games when you haven't really done it since 1969. You played in bowls all the way through the 80s, all the way through the 90s, 70s, all of it, all the way to now. So it has nothing to do with participation trophy culture. It has everything to do with our team, our culture in our locker room is spot the ball. We'll play you anytime, anywhere, any place. And by the way, we're pissed. Yeah, we're pissed. We didn't make it into the college football playoff. We're going to go play in this bowl game as everyone else does, and we're going to go beat the brakes off of somebody. How about that? So I have a lot more that I could potentially say on it, but that drove me crazy. Here's something else. I just wanted to kind of do a contrast here. The Notre Dame athletic director has been on this tour, right? And he did a whole press conference going after the ACC and everything. Clown move. It was a clown move. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous the way that he's handled this. Here's how some others have handled it in the past. Kirby Smart, after Georgia got left out, they went and they won the Orange Bowl. And this is what he said after the game.
Everybody on the outside said it didn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody should be at the game. Nobody should play in the game. These guys right here, they care. They care about each other.
They care about each other. One more time for our brothers. Kirby Smart's a leader. I know he went into that locker room that was super disappointed after they did not get into the college football playoff that year. And I guarantee you, he got up there and he said, look, it didn't go our way. That's life. Sometimes that happens. We should have done more. We should have done better. Next year, we're going to get it right. But this year, we got one more game. We're going to go out there. We're going to play for our brothers. We're going to play for our seniors. And we're going to play for the G on the side of that helmet. And they went out there and won that game. And it matters to these kids, right? And heard Chris Doering talk about this. He said, I played at Florida, and I would give anything to put on that script Gators and that jersey one more time. So I can't understand why Notre Dame doesn't want to put on that gold helmet one more time for their seniors, for this team, for the 2025 iteration of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and go out there and play one more time, because not all these kids are going to get to play in the NFL. Not all these kids are going to get to continue to play at Notre Dame. So I just don't understand the decision. I thought it was short-sighted, and I thought it was all about crying over spilled milk. And also, I'll end it on these two things. Kalani Sitake, this is how he handled it after BYU was left out of the college football playoff.
I think I said a lot yesterday, when we were talking about when the playoff committee had to make the decision. And I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not easy it can't be easy being in a playoff committee. And once they made a decision, it's set. And so I choose to be positive about everything. I think it's a hard thing for them to do. I think they did the best they could. We have an opportunity to play a game, and the goal is for us to play as many as we can. And we have one more now, and it happens to be against an amazing program like Georgia Tech. And we're looking forward to the matchup. I can't really say anything other than they did their best, and I'm looking forward to watching how the playoff plays out. I think there's some great teams in there. It's the unfortunate part is that there's a bunch of teams that could play in it, and that's what made it really difficult. And so whether they expanded or not, I have no idea. But the fact is that we get to play in this bowl game against Georgia Tech makes me really excited. And thinking about the Pop-Tarts thing, I have been known to stack Pop-Tarts on top of each other and take a bite. If you guys want to try that out, it's a good way to live your life. And so just try all the different flavors, and it's a good way to go. So that's how you get this physique, by doing things like that, being creative and innovative with your eating style.
That's how you handle it. I love it at the end, a little quip about the Pop-Tarts Bowl and everything, but you spin it into a positive. You don't always get everything that you want in life. We thought we should have been in. The committee's got a tough job. We understand it. And now we're going to go play another football game. We're going to have a lot of fun playing against Georgia Tech. We're excited about the matchup, all of that. This is how this meme, I felt like, summed up everything about what we've seen from Notre Dame over the past couple of days.
No. No.
A bunch of whiny babies. So that's my rant on Notre Dame. I got really spun up about it, and I thought they got hosed. But at the end of the day, the way that they have handled it since they got hosed, no sympathy. And also, finally here, 12-team playoff. If Notre Dame is ranked in the top 12, they automatically get in now, apparently. Who else gets that? Who else gets that? Nobody but Notre Dame. So you guys think you're all special. We're God's gift to college football. Well, I'm interested to see if people just stop scheduling them. Join a conference.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up so many good points in there, and we'll try to keep this relatively short. I did just want to add a couple things. As you brought up, I think the way Kirby handled this years ago, Sataki handled this, even Mike Norvell and FSU, as you said, they played. I think a lot of people get spun up in the, meaningless bowl game. Oh, well, guys are going to opt out. Man, who cares? First of all, I don't blame guys for opting out. If you are going to the NFL and you have legitimate money on the line, I get it. I don't necessarily like it, but I get it. I'm not going to fault guys for doing that. And Notre Dame probably would have had a lot of guys opt out. Fine. Yeah. As you said, the vast majority of that roster, I don't care. We can track this for years to come. The 2025 roster, how many of those guys end up getting drafted and playing more than their rookie contract in the NFL, it's going to be a short list. So the reality is, as you brought up, whoever's decision it was, Freeman, captains, the administration, doesn't really matter to me. They took an opportunity away from a majority of that team to strap it up one more time, whether they're seniors and it's their last time, or they're underclassmen and it's just another chance to play football. Because unlike basketball, baseball, any other sport, when you're done playing football, you are done. You don't play anymore. You can't play anymore. There is no legitimate, adult league football that's full-time, strap it up, tackle. And so I hate that they decided to not compete, to not give, as you said, their players, their staff, everybody involved in that program one more game. Because despite the fact that they got screwed and this process was horrendous, they still had a chance to play one more game. And like you said, they just threw in the towel and said, no, we didn't get our way. We're not going to do it. I hate that because, as Kirby said, it matters to these guys. It should matter to those guys to play one more game. And so I really didn't like that. And then, we'll touch on this later. But like you, I have a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman. Obviously, I haven't seen or heard anything from him, so I imagine he's just laying low and taking this very, very hard. Because look, man, it's tough to do what they did last year, to go all the way to the national, come back and have what just happened happen to them is tough. So he doesn't know anybody anything. He doesn't have to come out and give a press conference. But what Clark Lee did, in my opinion, is how you handle it. And I wrote this in the newsletter as well, is that they got hosed, but you got to look in the mirror and look and say, we lost 2 games, right? If we're 11-1, if we're 12-0, we're not sitting here on the outside looking in. We're not on the wrong side of the fence if we take care of business, and we didn't. We left it up to a committee, and we got hosed, but that's a possibility that we have seen over and over again, as we just brought up with all these other teams that have a legitimate gripe with the committee since it was in place in 2014, or the BCS. There is always teams that have legitimate gripes. And Notre Dame has a legitimate gripe this year, but at the end of the day, you're 10-2. You lost 2 ball games. You did not take care of business. You want to make sure you make the playoff? Go 12-0. Go 11-1. You didn't.
Yeah.
And so
exactly
to sit here and fold up, your lawn chair and go home, I don't like it. We've got some comments here. I wanted to just touch on this one thing too before we transition into maybe some coaching stuff. This kind of ties into what I'm going to say. So Big Matt saying the tiebreaker has to change. It does, because that also hurt Notre Dame this year. And I know the Notre Dame AP going after the ACC was completely insane, in my opinion. And Brett Yormark called him out as well, which was justified because, as I wrote again in the newsletter, Miami is a member of the ACC.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is a member of the ACC in everything other than football. So why on earth would the ACC owe you anything? I know there's the there's the scheduling agreement, and sure, it helps the ACC financially. I don't care. The ACC is trying to survive. Miami is in their conference. ACC, whether it's Miami, Clemson, FSU, they are trying to survive. They're going to promote their teams. If you want to join, join. By the way, they've asked you to join. You said no. So they don't owe you anything in terms of PR to get you into a playoff. Craziness. But to Big Matt's point, if the ACC had their tiebreaker structure figured out, this would have likely sorted itself out because Miami would have found themselves in the ACC title game. Assuming they win that ball game, that bumps out your JMU. Miami gets in by the merit of winning the ACC, and that opens up one more slot for Notre Dame. So
yeah,
there's a whole lot that goes into this. The ACC does need to get their tiebreakers fixed. I've heard a lot of people say most conferences more than likely will go to after head-to-head in a tiebreaker. It will be where you're ranked by the committee so that they have their highest ranking teams playing and not a 5-loss Duke team like we just saw. But
yeah,
anyway,
so,
I think we summed it up pretty well in that it's a real shame how they responded to a legitimate gripe. I would have liked to seen them, get up off the mat, respond, and take ownership for losing 2 games, and then just say, like you brought up a million times, hey boys, life ain't fair, is what it is. We got one more game to play. We got weeks of practice. We'll still be together. Instead, we're just done. And guys that are seniors that aren't going to the NFL, you're done. By the way, the game you played on Thanksgiving weekend, that's the last game you're ever going to play because we're just done. We're not playing anymore.
Right. I don't want to spend too much more time on this because I know we have other stuff we need to get to. Maybe a tiny bit of free football here tonight. But so I think Kevin, a Notre Dame fan, is in our chat tonight, which I'm glad he watched the show. Thank you for coming on. Maybe not watching anymore. We'll see.
I think he did bow out.
he probably bounced after my rant. But he says that the decision not to play in a bowl game was because a lot of the team would sit out for the draft, and it was a decision that was made by the seniors. Well, that doesn't negate my point. That's exactly what we were talking about. I do think anywhere, anytime, spot the ball. I guess it just means more in the SEC. Kirby Smart.
Drinkwitz said that.
Drink said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas A&M will play a bowl game. You guys you can't play a bowl game, unless we get the Golden Dome gets exactly what we want. We're not going to do it. I will say, I do think that we need to incentivize playing in the bowl games, not necessarily for the teams, but for players, because if the players are incentivized to play in these bowl games with a bonus or something like that, you know what I mean? Like Pop-Tarts Bowl gives each player, based on their Jeremiah Love, right? Jeremiah Love is going to get $200K to play in this game, or 150,000 or whatever, right? Like it's strata, so that players will get some sort of bonus to play in these sorts of games, or NIL deals, right, to play in these games. Like we have to have some sort of incentive so that kids don't opt out, because that has hurt the bowl product. So I understand what Kevin's saying there. Yeah, like half the team was going to opt out. Like, why would we play? Okay, I'm with you. Like I think we actually need to incentivize the bowl game structure. Final thing I'll say on Notre Dame is this whole idea that the ACC, who is owned by ESPN, and ESPN, who has most of the college football playoff and owns all the bowl games in terms of the media rights, the idea that they were conspiring with the committee to keep Notre Dame out of the playoff is one of the craziest tinfoil hat conspiracies that I have seen in college football in a long time. I mean, this was just a year ago that they put Notre Dame in the playoff, and Notre Dame makes it all the way to the title game. We know that Notre Dame has a coast-to-coast fan base. They have one of the biggest fan bases in college football. No, ESPN doesn't want to keep Notre Dame out. Like, they would rather them be in. But based on what the committee said and what the committee did in that room, they decided that Notre Dame hadn't done enough. And the head-to-head with Miami gets in over you. I don't know everything that the ACC was tweeting, about Notre Dame or about Miami or whatever. But of course, like you said, they are pushing the teams that are in their conference. You decided not to join. Join a conference. Stop whining about it when you don't get your way, because you're the only team except for like UMass, that gets to pick your own schedule, have your own media deal, and do all this. No, we're done with that. College football should be done with it. And the ACC network was replaying the Notre Dame and the Miami game. Well, that wasn't the ACC, the conference's decision. I mean, that's ESPN. So, yeah, okay, maybe you have a gripe with ESPN about that, but that's about the only legitimate gripe that you have with ESPN. The whole thing about ESPN trying to keep you out, give me a break.
Well, I mean, and just, again, this will be the last thing we say on this. Because I saw this point brought up on X, and it was, what happens next year if, or in 2 years, or whenever, if Notre Dame loses 3 or 4 regular season games? Do we just pack it up? Because college football playoff's done at that point.
Right,
we're not going. So do we just pack it up? Because that's what they're doing here.
Yes.
Which, again, it's just a lousy attitude, and it sucks that that's how they handled it. But that's the principle there is, hey, we can't go to the college football playoff anymore. These games don't matter. They're meaningless. They're meaningless.
Yeah.
Well,
cancel Syracuse, cancel Navy.
Yeah, they're again,
cancel NC
maybe
State.
meaningless to some, but certainly
Cancel
not to
Rice.
me as a fan, and hopefully the players. But speaking of disappointing seasons, we'll parlay this into some coach talk. Disappointing seasons, Penn State obviously firing James Franklin. We detailed the insanity of this coaching search recently. However, feels like they hit a home run here. They, after all that, in my opinion, whiffing on candidates and being turned down or people opting for other jobs, ended up with an absolute stud of a coach. Pulling Matt Campbell away from Iowa State, very difficult to do. He's turned down many a job, I believe, including NFL jobs, if you listen to the right people. And he took this job. So despite the roundabout way they got there, it seems like Pat Kraft and Penn State were given a life raft, so to speak, by Matt Campbell and come out looking like geniuses. But what are your thoughts on this hire?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic hire. I was having a lot of fun making fun of Penn State and making Penn State memes and all that when this coaching search was 50 plus days, and it looked like they had struck out on, everybody from the bottom of the barrel to your mom. It's like they they are not going to find a good, they're going to have to find drafters like Brian Daboll. This is the obvious pick. Go get Brian Daboll. This guy's got fired by the Giants. He was a great college football coach. This seems so obvious. But then to get Matt Campbell out of left field, it all worked out. Pat Kraft looks like a genius now, at least for now, until the games start. We'll see. But all Matt Campbell has done is win. I mean, he's the winningest coach in Iowa State history. Let's check this out here. 72-55 overall at Iowa State. He did a heck of a job at Iowa State. 3-4 bowl record. That doesn't look so great, but not that big of a deal. 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year, back-to-back, 17 and 18, won it again in 20. Winningest coach in ISU history. He had them on the cusp of winning the Big 12 championship last year and going to the college football playoff. They had big aspirations this year. Didn't end up going their way. They ended up 8-4. But Iowa State football, for those who don't know, I mean, us being Aggies and being in the Big 12 for a long time, we know Iowa State football. They were a doormat forever. I mean, every single year it was like Iowa State, don't worry about them, W. Chalk it up as a win on the schedule. What Matt Campbell did at Iowa State is extraordinarily impressive. And so I'm very interested to see, with the resources of Penn State, with the fertile recruiting ground at Penn State, what he's able to do with a program with ample resources versus an Iowa State where he overachieved with the resources that were given to him. And Iowa State fans will even acknowledge that, right? Like they don't play in the waters that an Ohio State or a Penn State, right? Or a Texas or, any Florida. They don't play in those waters. They just don't have the money or the resources. Penn State does. So to see him at Penn State, I'm very interested to see how this goes. I think he's one of the best leaders in college football. I'm really excited. I think they made a great hire.
Yeah, I do too. The only thing I want to add, because I think it's a great hire on all fronts. Campbell's only 46 years old. And if you look at the way he's handled himself at Iowa State and then at Toledo, even before that, I read an article, after all this went down. I mean, he almost didn't take the Iowa State job to stay at Toledo because he, is a loyal dude and he liked it and he's from Ohio. And he was just like, not sure the grass is always greener type of thing. So I say all that to say he's 46 years old. I don't think he's going anywhere as long as they have him. So
yeah, loyal guy.
Right. As long as he's winning ball games, I think he could be there for a very long time. We'll see if he can get over the hump and win at the highest level that they want, but he will win ball games.
Speaking of like a way to leave a program, Lane Kiffin, he took out a full-page ad in the Des Moines Register to thank Iowa State and to thank Ames for everything that they did for him and his family, that he loved his time at Iowa State. This was just the opportunity that finally came that he couldn't pass up. And so I think most of Iowa State fans will love him forever for what he did for that program. I saw a couple were mad at him for leaving or whatever, but I think that's the vocal minority at Iowa State. And so I think that he is all class. I think Penn State got a fantastic coach there, which I think we can move now to somebody who seemingly is not all class, which is Sharon Moore gets fired at Michigan today. I was watching the Paul Feinbaum show in the background while I was doing some work, and all of a sudden he comes over and he's like, breaking news, Sharon Moore just got fired at Michigan, being reported by ESPN and On3 and like all these guys. And I was like, what? And so I started looking at it, and sure enough, here's the tweet or the statement, at least from Morty Manuel, the athletic director at Michigan. Sharon Moore has been terminated with cause, which means they don't have to pay his buyout, effective immediately. Following a university investigation, credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. This conduct constitutes a clear violation of university policy, and UM maintains a zero tolerance for such behavior. Biff Poggi has been appointed head football coach in an interim capacity, effective immediately, end quote. Okay. Well, the hiring cycle is basically over. I mean, they're Michigan, so there's probably gonna be some names out of left field, that it's one of the best jobs in college football. I mean, but this was a shocker.
Yeah. What struck me, honestly, is how direct they were in that statement. I don't think you typically see that. Even if a guy is fired with cause, they'll maybe say, again, and the details will always come out, but for the AD to say exactly what went down is, alarming and just shows you that, it's not good there. And he's obviously not going out on good terms, not well liked. I'm with you. I don't know. I was shocked when I saw this, and I'm very interested to see where they go.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. The hiring cycle absolutely feels over. So I don't know what they do.
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin. Gosh, I mean, Brian Hartline.
I mean, sheesh.
Lincoln Riley.
I really don't know where they go. So this was Sharon Moore at Michigan. No more at Michigan. Great pun by me. 2 years at Michigan, overall 26-18, 692 winning percentage. He was 1-0 in bowls. They were going to the Cheez-It Bowl. It was either them or Texas who was going to be feeling the cheesiest this year. 9-3 record in 2025. They got Bryce Underwood. I mean, they had going into 2026. You had to be excited about what Michigan had coming back, about the program, about we should be back in contention for the college football playoff next year. But now you don't have a head coach. And so that changes everything, especially in this portal era. I mean, I saw people tweeting it already, like Lane Kiffin, make the call, like call Bryce Underwood, get him to come to LSU, right? I mean, if they don't get the right coach, this roster could be picked apart.
For sure. The only thing I'll say on Underwood, he got supposedly, a $10 million NIL deal is what was reported. He could get a lot from another program. It just, we just saw this, not to take us on a side tangent, but we just saw this actually, Georgia suing. Can't remember his name. The
kid that went to Mizzou.
Yeah, the defensive lineman who transferred to Mizzou. for, NIL earnings, basically, that he, owes them back pay or something, right? Because he backed out. So that's the only thing I could see that would possibly keep Underwood around, is just, he's not able to get out of the deal or whatever the case is. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, because he'll have plenty of suitors. He has a year of experience. He wasn't great this year, but he's a true freshman. Potential still through the roof. LSU, he was committed there forever. He absolutely, Kiffin would take him in a heartbeat, especially with, Nussmeier. And I mean, Kiffin's going to get guys out of the portal at quarterback this offseason, regardless of if it's Underwood or whoever. But he's not standing pat with President Van Buren. So, yeah, I don't know where they go. I'm fascinated to see this. It feels late. Signing day's already happened. Everybody else, the musical chairs, the music has stopped. Everyone is seated. So I don't know what they do, but it'll be interesting to see. Well, we're a little bit over time. Let's go through and just chat about some of these games we saw last week to kind of close out the, again, not quite regular season, but sort of the cherry on top of the regular season. So we can talk on the SEC title game last. Maybe let's do a sandwich here. So let's start with the other big game, the Big Ten. I mean, I don't have a ton of takeaways in this game because it was pretty, obviously 13-10, low scoring, very just compressed game. It felt like nobody could really get a ton of space. But I just hats off to Cignetti. I said it last week with our guest picker, Ellie Mae. I was like, looking at these logos, I can't pick against Ohio State because it's Ohio State and it's Indiana. And, man, totally proven wrong. That defense is what really impressed me. Fernando Mendoza, I've watched him enough to know that he can make big-time throws, and he did in this game. But, man, what they did to Ohio State on defense, I was surprised. I mean, I think we talked about it. You just got to make Julian Sain uncomfortable, and they made him uncomfortable all game, dude. He was not terrible, but just, uncomfortable, under pressure, guys in his face. And I was pretty floored, honestly, with that Indiana. The DBs were tight in coverage. They were physical. They were all over those Ohio State receivers. The front seven was winning against Ohio State's offensive line. It was just a masterclass, honestly.
He wins. Google him. I mean, what he has done at Indiana in 2 years is nothing short of a miracle. And I tweeted this after the game that Curt Cignetti has basically moved up the timeline for new hires. The timeline has been continually getting moved up as we've gotten, further and further into the modern era of college football. Used to be, okay, you got 5 years, right? You're going to get few recruiting cycles in, get your guys into the program. And then by year 4, when it's all your guys, that, and then we didn't have the transfer portal and everything, 5 years. Then the transfer portal came in. Then it was more like 3 to 4. And as we've gotten even further into this now, and now with Curt Cignetti going into Indiana, a historically meh to bad program, and doing this in 2 years, he's moved up the timeline for all new hires. If you're not getting it done by the end of year 2, we got a real problem. No 6 and 6 at the end of year 2. And we're going to, we'll give you a third year. No. It's if you are not at least 8 and 4, depending on the program, if you're not 8 and 4, you're not getting another chance, because Curt Cignetti has taken Indiana from nothing, bottom of the barrel, to beating Ohio State for the Big Ten championship in 2 seasons. And like you said, they were physical. They were on Ohio State all night. Fernando Mendoza made the plays when he had to. He's hit in the transfer portal, and some others. Yeah. And so I'm very, very impressed with what Curt Cignetti has done at Indiana. For Ohio State, it was kind of surprising to see them play that way. And then the missed field goal. I mean, I don't think we can talk about this game. In pregame warmups is making wild FIFA looking, kicks. And then he misses a chip shot that should tie the game. And man, he shanked that. That was an ugly kick. And congrats to Indiana. What an awesome game. Good for them. I'm excited to see what they can do in the playoff. I mean, they're the only undefeated team I believe, that's in the playoff.
Yeah, they are only undefeated team. Last thing to close it out, obviously Ohio State and Ryan Day just won the national championship. So the old, narrative around him to me anymore is dead.
Yeah. Beat Michigan.
But this kind of felt like the old Ryan Day in a sense of, hey, we're getting challenged. We're not overpowering this team physically, and just everybody tightens up. And you have the missed field goal, you have the fourth down that they can't convert. And like I said, the guy, he's got the skins on the wall. I'm just saying it felt a little bit like old times and what the Ohio State fans have criticized him for in the past, in those bigger games, in the rivalry, he just, for some reason, tightens up. And obviously, look, if the kid makes a chip shot field goal, they win in overtime. I'm not saying this. So, but that's how it was before too, because you could go back to all those games and be like, well, if this happened, that's how football goes. I was surprised to see Ohio State sort of revert back to that. And I was surprised to see Indiana, the team that, forced them into that, because they played a heck of a game.
Yeah, no, they definitely did.
Moving on. I mean, I don't have anything to say about this game. I don't know if you want to say anything. I mean, Texas Tech is really good. Yeah.
Texas Tech. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Guns up.
They earned their first round bye. Good for them.
Yeah.
Feel bad for, how things went down with BYU. Great season for BYU, but is what it is. So good win for the Red Raiders. Good for them. Good for the Red Raiders. They ponied up, paid a bunch of guys, got their coach, got everything, and it paid off. So happy for our Red Raider brethren out in Lubbock. This game was nuts. What are your thoughts on this game? I mean, this was crazy.
I loved it. This one was so much fun, and Duke spoiled the party, threw a wrench into the committee. I think it was the last game that ended on Saturday night. And first of all, Duke should have even tiebreaker, which we talked about earlier. They got to fix that. But they get the win. They beat UVA. UVA beat them handily early in the year. And for those who don't know, for those who are new to Biscuits SEC, we have some Charlottesville history. For half of our childhood, a little more than half of our childhood, we grew up in Charlottesville. So we've got a ton of friends who still live in Charlottesville, a ton of friends who went to UVA, who graduated from there. And so we were talking to all of them during this game, and it was looking bleak. And then all of a sudden, UVA turns it on late in the fourth quarter and makes this insane comeback. And they have all the momentum. And I'm thinking, oh, this is UVA is going to get it done, and they're going to get in the playoff. Like, this is impressive. This is awesome. This is great football. This is college football, right? These crazy comebacks. And then they come out in overtime. Duke immediately scores a touchdown, and then they try to run this ridiculous trick play that ends up with Chandler Morris throwing a terrible ball that he never should have thrown into double coverage, and it gets picked off. And so great win for Duke. It was kind of funny to watch Manny Diaz in the post-game press conference talking about, we should be in, 7 Power 4 wins. We should be in. It's like five losses, man. Come on. Just stop. 5 losses. Congrats on the ACC title. 5 losses. But in terms of the game, incredible game. Feel for the UVA kids that they didn't get it done. Great season for them as well. But obviously I know they wanted to go to the college football playoff. So tough for them to swallow, but awesome game for those of us without a rooting interest and just watching it from afar and saying, that was awesome. That's why we love college football.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this game,
bananas.
Heartbreaking loss for UVA. But just everything about this game is why we love college football.
Yeah.
It's back and forth, goes to overtime. They try to run a trick play, of course, throw an interception. You have a 5-loss team in their conference title game. Like, none of it made any sense. UVA had beaten Duke in Durham 34-17 like 3 weeks ago in mid-November. Again, none of it made sense. And it was just like, of course Duke wins, obviously, right? Like, what's the most backwards scenario we could come up with? Well, Duke wins the ACC. So they went out and did it. So good for them. That's why we love college football. Crazy game, fun game. The last one in Atlanta, not as fun game. fun of a game because Georgia just took it to them here, man. This was like clinical.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama had -3 rush yards. That's about all you need to know in this game. Kirby Smart, Georgia brought it. Bama, they're beat up. Their offense is struggling. Their defense is good, but Georgia's offense is also really good. So they just did not have it in this game. And it was surprising to see. I thought this game was going to be really close. So I was surprised the way Georgia handled them, but man, they made it look easy. What do you think?
Yeah, they did. So for all the talk about Georgia's defense over the last really 2 years of these, they're good, but they're not the Georgia defense of old, like they're just not at that level that they used to be at over the course of the season. And now we're in the SEC title game playing an Alabama team that beat you earlier in the season in Athens. And you do that 28-7, you do that to them. And I mean, it was super impressive to watch that defense just go to work. I mean, Ty Simpson, he was under duress all day long and just never really had time to throw. And the other part of it too for Alabama that was so tough was they kept giving Georgia short fields early in the game. You get the blocked punt, then Ty Simpson throws that interception and Georgia capitalized. And so early on, you're just on your heels, and then Georgia's defense can really start coming downhill. And that's what happened. And Alabama just kind of been, slowly trending downward for the last month or so, which is what Dave in Tuscaloosa, our friend who writes for Biscuits SEC.com, when he did his recap of this game, he was texting us about it after, just saying, I'm worried. Like, we've been trending downward. It doesn't look great for us going into the college football playoff. We got to figure it out. And Rick here, he's saying, yeah, we were banged up. And earlier I saw his comment. I think it's way up here. I don't think I can find it, but there it is. He was saying that rumor is that Ty has been playing hurt. So it would make a little more sense based on the way he's played over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But on our show last week, Gunnar Stockton, he's a dog. And he's got it in him, man. And that kid just gets it done when it matters. So good win for Georgia. Final thing, the Kalen DeBoer black hoodie. Maybe that lore is kind of gone now because I think it's 3 games now that he's lost in the black hoodie. He's still got a winning record by far, I think, in the black hoodie. But the Death Star black hoodie, the lore of the black hoodie may be gone.
Yeah, it does feel dead. Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, hopefully Bama can get healthy and kind of lick their wounds before the Oklahoma game. But, yeah, that was a impressive win by Georgia. Well, man, I think that is all we have except for our final 2 segments. So we'll get you all out of here. If you're new around here, thanks for tuning in. We always close the show with a biscuit of the week and our must-champ coach of the week. So we'll start with the biscuit of the week. I put this together. So we do, Biscuits at SEC. It's in the name. We love biscuits. We love Southern food culture. This one this week comes from everyone's favorite SEC network host, sideline reporter, Alyssa Lang, who was in Oxford for signing day and just posted this on Twitter with no caption whatsoever, just the picture of this spread from Big Bad Breakfast in Oxford, Mississippi, and looks awesome. I mean, she's got a biscuit, bacon, some eggs, some kind of, I'm assuming, hot sauce, I'm guessing, maybe ketchup. Some people put ketchup on their eggs, not me, but some people do. But shout out to Ole Miss for taking care of the reporters down there for signing day, because I doubt Alyssa picked that up on her way to the facility. I'm guessing that they had that stuff set out for the reporters, and that looks dang good. So if you're in Oxford and you don't know about Big Bad Breakfast, I suggest you check it out. And then that's a little picture on the right. They've got the old school diner bar, so it looks like a pretty cool place.
Yeah, it really does. I can't tell if that's, what is that, like mac and cheese or maybe some grits or something, bacon. That biscuit looks incredible. The eggs, Big Bad Breakfast, coffee, iced coffee to go. Yeah, that looks fantastic. I saw this when she tweeted it, and I had to comment on it because of all the Marty Smith stuff that happened when the Lane Kiffin stuff was going down in Oxford, and all the funny hostage memes and all that stuff. And so I replied to her and I said, "Breaking news: Ole Miss actually takes great care of their hostages." Because Big Bad Breakfast came through in the clutch. Yeah, that little diner there that they have in Oxford looks incredible. I put together a couple more pictures from it as well, from the food, just from Yelp and a couple, Google images and such. And they look like they have some great pancakes. That's some chicken and waffles there as well on the top left. And then on the right there, another, short stack of big pancakes. You got, I think that's eggs Benedict with fried chicken there. I mean, this place looks incredible. So yeah, if you guys are in Oxford anytime soon, check out Big Bad Breakfast. And thank you to Alyssa Lang for tweeting that, because that may be one of the best biscuits of the week that we've had in a while, not counting Captain Biscuit, Rick Wilmar's biscuits. Of course, he always gets the number one spot in our mind.
He does. Number one in our hearts and in our minds, Captain Biscuit. All right, so our final segment, our Muschamp Coach of the Week. This is an homage, an honorary award given out to in honor of our friend Will Muschamp, who just loved college football, was passionate. He would never do what Notre Dame did. He would spot the ball anywhere. He's passionate. He loved college football. We loved Coach Muschamp, despite the unfortunate endings to his stops in Gainesville and Columbia. So we like to honor a coach every week here that we can, who personifies that love, desire, passion for college football. There were some good candidates this week. Of course, Signetti had, plenty of good quotes. Also, just the body of work that he has put forth in 2 years at Indiana is certainly worthy. But given all the Notre Dame drama, I felt like this was the perfect Muschamp Coach of the Week this week.
We happen to be on the wrong side of that in this moment. But that's no one's fault except for our own. We had our opportunities and we didn't do enough. And so we are not victims in this process. Our ownership is in coming up short. I think it's a reminder of how critical every moment is, every snap, every possession. And there's a lot to learn in this season, because we want to be back in these moments. But as it is, we'll spend time in the off season trying to get the system more into focus with where the game has gone. In the meantime, we're gonna celebrate the hell out of going and playing in Tampa and have fun together one last time.
Thank you. Clark Lee takes ownership, saying this is nobody's fault but our own, says we are not victims in this process, and then closes it out by saying we're going to celebrate the hell out of going and playing our bowl game in Tampa. And by the way, same record as Notre Dame, 10-2.
Oh, you don't say. Really? That's interesting. First of all, love it. I didn't mention Clark Lee in my whole Notre Dame rant because I knew that we were going to talk about him a little bit later. And that's the best quote of anybody who was talking about what happened with the college football playoff. Vanderbilt had a legitimate argument to be in the college football playoff. Without a doubt, 10-2. Should be in. But they didn't do enough, right? Ended up having 2 losses. You didn't get it done when you were at Texas. You had a bad first half, and you had to come back, and it just didn't go your way with that onside kick. Didn't get it done. So I love that mentality. It's the Jocko Willink mentality, right? Extreme ownership.
Yep.
That is exactly what he's talking about in that press conference, is taking extreme ownership. At the end of the day, we have no one to blame but ourselves. You don't want to put it in the committee's hands. Look yourself in the mirror. We should have won one more game. We should have gone undefeated. We should have beaten Texas. There are these things that we could have done that would have put us in. And so absolutely love that from Clark Lee. And I thought he handled it just about as well as anybody could have with Vanderbilt getting left out of the college football playoff. Take notes, Notre Dame.
Agreed. Well, with that, we are done. Thank you for tuning in. We are Biscuits and SEC Live. We'll be back here next Wednesday. We'll be talking first round of the college football playoff. In the meantime, follow us on social media, subscribe on YouTube, sign up to the newsletter, yada, yada, yada. But thank you for tuning in. We'll close it out. I am Hammer. That is Bossman. Appreciate y'all for joining us.